As more and more people get back into training and strength training, it is important to discuss what it is that we're doing and why it is that we're doing such movements or exercises. One of the most common terms that gets thrown around in the fitness community is the term core. Now, while a six-pack abs may be aesthetically pleasing, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. The core is designed to provide a pillar of stability and strength to perform activities, but also to keep your spine healthy. In this video, we're going to go over what the core is, what purpose it serves, so that you can effectively train it better. When we consider the shape of the core, it is basically a cylindrical trunk with the roof being the diaphragm and the bottom being the pelvic floor. Obviously, with the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, they serve a lot bigger purpose than just core stability. Funny thing is that when we are stressed, we only utilize about 1/3 of our lung capacity, which means that the diaphragm doesn't actually descend all the way down. Ultimately, what that means for us is that we may lose control of our diaphragmatic breathing. And as humans, we are geared towards survival always. So choosing between getting enough oxygen versus stability or posture, we're always going to choose getting more oxygen without fail. And so it is important to correct breathing mechanics or discuss breathing before getting into core stability. At the front of the core, we've got the rectus abdominis muscle, commonly referred to as the abs, which is responsible for flexing our trunk or drawing our ribcage closer to our pelvis. And as we go out to the sides, we have 3 different layers of muscles. We have the external oblique, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis. And those muscles don't work individually, but as a group, they're responsible for rotating the trunk, turning side to side, and even side bending. And they create what's called an intra-abdominal pressure by eccentrically contracting, which means to stretch out and provide the core with stability. As we go out towards the back, we've got the multifidus and the paraspinal muscles. Now that we know what it is, let's talk about what it does. Simply put, the objective of the core is to put the spine in an optimal position in order to reduce unnecessary loading on it, as well as to increase power and force output to move the limbs around it, such as your hip complex, your shoulder complex, as well as your lower limbs. So how does it do what it does? Well, when we consider the shape of it, one thing that comes to mind is a can of Coke. Now, when we look at the shape of the Coke, it is quite strong enough to withstand the forces by stepping on it when it's full. But once it's cracked open, it's quite easy to crumble by the forces going down from the top and the reactive force coming up from the bottom. The last thing to note is that we don't create pressure from out to in, it's always in to out. And the reason why this is important is because in the 90s, they found those with low back pain had poor transverse abdominal strength, which is one of those muscles on the sides of your trunk. And they will prescribe exercises such as drawing your belly button in closer to your spine in order to stabilize. But considering how the mechanics of the muscles of the core help stabilize your spine by distributing the pressure around the trunk, it would not make sense for you to draw your belly button in order to stabilize better. In fact, what they might do is actually it might decrease the overall pressure of the trunk and make it easier for it to crumble. Now that we know what the core is and what it does, hopefully you're able to train it more effectively, or if anything, you're able to look back on your training and see if you're missing out on anything. Like as always, if you have any questions regarding anything at all, feel free to message us and we'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching.